When I was a child, of course, we lived out in the country, and the first mail plane that flew cross country flew directly over our farm. And every morning at a certain time, my dad would take us out in the yard, and we'd watch for the appearance of this silver plane coming across the sky. And then in the evening, it returned at the same time before dark. So every morning and every evening, we would go and watch this plane streak across the sky. Very seldom did this plane carry passengers. It was simply a mail plane. But it was a silver plane, so it really would stand out against the sky. And this was our first introduction to flying when we were young. And then every time there was an air show at the nearby Dayton airport, our father would take us over to watch the show. So we were being indoctrinated at an early age. And as I said, I was a teenager when my cousin became very much interested in flying, and he raised cattle, and he got a two-headed calf and raised it to adulthood, but he would charge. They lived along a main highway, but he would charge admission to see this, and gradually he made enough money to buy his own plane, and then he had enough money to buy another plane, and then years later he found another two-headed calf and made enough money to build his airport, see. And then his wife at 62 learned to fly. So we were all very much involved in this because we were cousins, so we were over at their place a lot. But this sort of stimulated my interest in flying. And then during the Second World War, one of my older brothers joined a flying club and learned to fly, learned to pilot a plane. And that ended when one of the members crashed the plane into a cranberry bog up north. But it still didn't kill my interest in flying. And so then during the Second World War, I was working up in Rochester, New York, and a nurse friend of mine and I became interested in flying. They were offering flying lessons out at the airport. So at the end of the day, we would hitchhike out to the airport and take the pre-flight ground school course. And then we took flying lessons. Well, was with a half hour of soloing, and like a stupid thing, I never thought about it. I went out when I had a severe sinus infection. I got up in the air and made my little flight pattern and did all right. It was after I got down to the ground that my tubes in my ears collapsed. I lost my hearing for 2 weeks. And in my nursing career, that was very bad. So the doctor grounded me. My nurse friend continued her flying and got her pilot's license, needless to say. So I just said, well, if I can't, I can't, but it's not going to keep me out of the air. So from that day on, I would fly commercial planes whenever I had a chance. I would fly in commercial planes. But then some years later, when my son was in his first year in college, he came home and he waved this little piece of paper in front of my face and he said, look, Ma. I said, what do you have? I'm one up on you, Ma. I've got my pilot's license. So I said, hooray for you. So he would take me up occasionally. Then eventually, I would say about 5 years ago, he bought his own plane, a small plane. It was a second-hand one, but he still flies here and there, which is wonderful. But to this day, I really enjoy flying.